Slayer's Fang is the newest exotic weapon added by Episode 2's exotic mission, Kel's Fall. And man, I'm pretty whelmed by this shotgun. It's very whelming. So let's talk about it. First, what does it actually do? Well, it's got two things to know. Number one, rounds from this weapon shatter into sub-munitions on impact. So exploding bullets that scatter when they hit something. Two, when you get a kill with this weapon, you get a 7-second buff that will give you true sight, bonus reload speed, more precision damage, and the sub-munitions will weaken targets, although that does include the primary target that you're shooting as well. Getting the intrinsic bonus from the exotic mission to its maximum also gives this thing plus 10 range, stability, and handling. So, get a kill, and some neat stuff happens. Got it. Turns out that this buff is also applied to your teammates who have the shotgun equipped when you proc it. Not sure if that's a bug because I just never know if anything is working properly anymore. Also, you can trigger it by picking up a Void Breach. Also, this thing apparently also deals bonus damage to Scorn, so that's cool. After playing with this thing for a while, my thoughts on it are as follows. It's fun. It's pretty good. It's not terrible by any means. Do I think it's a god tier weapon or anything? Not really, but it is definitely more good than it is bad, especially compared to other exotic shotguns. Conditional finality stands at the top for many people, kind of goes without saying. I think this might be the next best special ammo using exotic shotgun, but it is not something that I would bring everywhere. I really wanted to try to find a build to use with this shotgun as opposed to just throwing it on and winging it. Falcon Hunter is obviously a contender for this weapon, but I opted for a no backup plan Titan instead because we all know that Falcon Hunter is pretty good already with like almost everything. Anytime something void comes along, Falcon Hunter, like we get it. That being said, I feel like Falcon maybe has the advantage here because of their ability to reposition much more freely than a Void Titan in high difficulty content because of invisibility. I also opted for pure Void on my Titan as opposed to Prismatic because we all know that Prismatic is nuts. The build itself wasn't anything remarkable. Get Devour, extend Overshield duration, and then just make it even easier to get Devour by making orbs and making Void Breaches. Bastion, Offensive Bulwark are the aspects. Keep it simple. Armor mods, keep it simple. Energy gains, ammo finders, and a scav mod. I reviewed no backup plans way back when they first got buffed, or I guess most recently got buffed, and I thought they were fine, but nothing that remarkable. It should not surprise you to hear that this shotgun did very little to change my opinion of no backup plans, nor did no backup plans drastically make my experience with this shotgun better. The spreading pellets, they're not too bad. For the most part, this extra damage that comes out is notable on enemies, and if there are enemies within a certain area of where you're shooting, preferably the enemies will be behind the target that you are shooting, they will do a pretty good job of trying to seek out those targets, potentially weakening them as well, if not outright killing them. But it is something that I think you should try to just let happen in the background of your gameplay, as opposed to trying to hunt down the perfect opportunity to shoot the gun. If you only just wait for the perfect moments only, you'll almost never use this thing. But if you notice there's a big enemy and then a few smaller enemies behind it, try to maneuver yourself to make the most of it. Also, be careful because you can accidentally weaken yourself with this weapon. In low to mid-tier content, I'm talking your Onslaughts, your Tomb of Elders, stuff in the 0 to -10, maybe -15 power level difficulty range. This thing is quite a lot of fun. It's very effective. It hits super hard, especially when it's surged or overcharged, whatever, which it was for me quite a lot. It's taken out some bigger, tougher enemies. I'm talking Colossus in like 1 or 2 hits. It's spreading weakness basically everywhere, although one could argue that if you're already dominating that hard, weaken isn't that crucial to your experience. Any activity with a lot of enemies is going to really feel the pain from the scattering pellet spread as well, but pretty much everything works in this difficulty range. That being said, I do think this shotgun and any of the builds that might go with it are probably the most fun and effective in this kind of content. When moving up the ladder, I'm talking stuff -10, -15, maybe you're pushing it -20, then things get a little more dicey. The weapon is effective, but it's as effective as a shotgun can reasonably be in this kind of content. It just depends on the content. If you're in some close quarters areas where a shotgun can really shine, great. Bay of Drowned Wishes Lost Sector? Not great for this shotgun. Really not that great. Other Lost Sectors? Maybe a little bit better for the shotgun. The reason I would pick this weapon over other weapons at this point is mainly for matching surges, on top of champion needs, on top of, is this place going to let me effectively use this weapon? It is not something that I'm just throwing on without a second thought. That being said, the overload portion at the moment is broken. It will stun champions, but it will not stop their health from regenerating. So just waiting on a fix for that. The true test is always a Grandmaster Nightfall. And, at least with the no backup plans setup, I'm not really looking to use this setup in a GM, again, unless the content calls for it. In looking at the available GMs for episode 2, I would say that less than half were ones where I think this could even be an effective weapon. Like, look at the Corrupted. It is a giant hallway of danger where it's very difficult to get close to anything at all, save for the elevator section. So not only is getting into shotgun range inherently risky most of the time anyway, in the Corrupted, it's a very infrequent occurrence. This same logic applies to a lot of other GMs. Then, of the GMs that did have some shotgun viability, I'm still not in that much of a hurry to use something like a no backup plans build, or even this shotgun in general. Example, Hive Battleground Moon has some opportunities to get up close to enemies in most of the strike. But overshields aren't strong enough to let you just walk around and do whatever you want. You still need to plan your attack route, and even then, you're still incredibly susceptible to attack. And for the average player, a shotgun is typically not conducive to an effective loadout in a GM. Hell, it's not really conducive for me. People are just going to throw on a rocket sidearm and call it a day. For those looking to purely min-max their experience as much as possible, only looking for the best builds and the best loadouts, I present to you Consecration Titan. My team, no communication. We're clearing the first section of this GM in 2 minutes. Compare that to the no backup plans footage, and, well, it's not even really a discussion. As for any other content, raids, what have you, the only reason I would bring this is for a very specific circumstance, whatever that happens to be. The weaken is nice, but most teams are already going to have some kind of a weaken effect, and even if they don't, I'm not sure this is worth bringing solely for the weaken effect, especially since you need to kill something else first and then hit your target with it, which isn't always possible, especially in a boss fight. This thing also comes with 4 catalyst options: Repulsor Brace, Cascade Point, Stats for All, and Loose Change. Which catalyst should you go for? Let's start with Cascade Point, because it seems like the go-to, right? Like, Cascade on a shotgun seems like it would go crazy, and to an extent, it does. But I'm not the biggest fan. In order to get the maximum benefit from this shotgun, you will need to have the buff procced, which is done by killing an enemy. To get Cascade Point in the mix, you need to kill an enemy with a different weapon and then swap within the timing window of a few seconds. So to fully maximize Cascade Point, you need to kill with a different weapon, then switch to the shotgun, then kill another target, and then start shooting the target that you actually want to push a bunch of damage into. With Cascade Point only lasting 3 seconds here, the opportunity to get a maximum effect Cascade Point burst is quite difficult. Now, there's nothing wrong with simply activating Cascade without the buff, and I imagine many people will just opt for that, sacrificing the exotic effect for simply pumping out a bunch of damage. My feelings on that are Cascade Point shotguns already exist. So I want to try to maximize the uptime of the exotic perk of this shotgun. Otherwise, why am I using this shotgun over other shotguns? I get that you can utilize both the exotic and Cascade Point interchangeably though, but doing both at the same time is not that great of a process, and it's a little tough to do. That being said, it's still Cascade Point. It's still very capable of some nice burst damage. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. Repulsor Breaks makes a lot of sense. You're going to be weakening targets quite a lot, killing them, which makes an overshield for you. But if you're running with what I primarily tested, no backup plans using Titan, a shotgun kill already makes an overshield for you, so you will not need repulsor brace. It does have synergy with primarily void-based builds or anything that benefits from having an overshield, and I think I would probably opt for it in quite a lot of cases, as I feel the reload speed of the weapon is already pretty good. Plus, you can just mod in some reload speed if you really want more. Which brings us to Stats for All and Loose Change. I know Stats for All does more than provide reload speed, but I don't really value the other stats as much in PvE when I can position myself pretty freely. Reload speed's never bad, but considering that you can mod some of it into your armor if you really want it, I don't know how much of a hurry I'm in to grab more of it. But it's an option that you will rarely need to actually think about, especially Loose Change. So if you just want some reload speed and you just want to call it a day there, I wouldn't blame you. In terms of PvP, I didn't play with it myself, but I've heard familiar feedback from my PvP friends. It's a fun thing to mess around with, but you're probably not going to be taking off your Deadlock or your Prophet of Doom or your Matador 64 for this thing anytime soon. So that's Slayer's Fang, a pretty fun weapon where shotguns are allowed to shine. I enjoy using it when I'm not taking things too seriously. It's fun to bop things in the head for over 100,000 damage when I'm just chilling, playing some Onslaught or whatever I'm doing. But beyond that, I think your results will vary. Let me know how you're feeling about this thing. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.